This is just a sample of the audiobook. To get the complete audiobook, access the link posted in the first comment.
I wanted to give the committee a historic perspective on what they were doing and what had conspired throughout history to give Americans the freedoms we all shared. I wanted to tell them that in the last analysis, it was the public that was being blacklisted. Because of the committee's actions, cash-paying audiences would no longer get to see the good works and performances of those declared pariahs by HUAC. I wanted to ask them to allow me to continue to work in my craft without the threat of badgering and blacklist. I wanted to point out to them that under a system of free enterprise, an artist should not be restrained from competing freely for a career and a livelihood, or have his thoughts constrained. I also wanted to tell the committee I was not intimidated by them, and that I had great faith in the future of my country. I wanted them to know that no matter what they did to my colleagues and me, I knew their committee would not last forever, and that we would have freedom in spite of them, along with a glowing, glorious American theater and cinema, and the blossoming art of television. I wanted them to know that I owed full and unqualified allegiance to my flag and to our Constitution, which has given hope and encouragement to the world. I wanted them to know that I believed loyalty is measured by deeds and devotion to one's neighbors, and by active participation in civic and charitable functions, not by a devotional fetish that required the mechanical affixing of a signature to a meaningless loyalty oath. I wanted them to understand that what they were doing was unworthy of the men who committed themselves to great hazard and grief when they signed that great all-time act of nonconformity, the Declaration of Independence. They signed for freedom. In 1951 in America, people signed loyalty oaths out of acquiescence and fear. I wanted to ask them, how can you reconcile that? But they would not let me speak and refused to hear anything about my war experience or commendations or my observations about freedom. It was common for HUAC to dismiss any mention of honorable war records of those who refused to testify as simply records of Benedict Arnold's. This was utterly convenient for them, if not simply blind. The committee was done with me. Before I was summarily dismissed, however, Chairman Wood took a moment to personally attack me when he said, "If by any action of this committee we could be instrumental in eliminating from the field of public entertainment the views of people, particularly the youth of this country, being moved by a large extent, people who decline to answer a question as to whether or not they are members of the Communist Party, it would make me extremely happy." Woods' last comment regarding the youth of our country turned out to be particularly ironic. During my 12 years of being blacklisted, I held many classes for children and volunteered my time teaching creative dramatics to inmates at the Sybil Brand Juvenile Hall and the Las Palmas School for Girls. In 1965, a Los Angeles grand jury commended my volunteer work with an official citation and thank you. Congressman Wood would have been appalled. But on that day, I was numb. Hope and I walked out of the hearing room together. There was very little we could say, and nothing could be done to change the outcome of what had just transpired in front of us. We stepped out of the federal building together into the bright sunlight, despondent and holding on to each other for dear life.